Hello everyone, and welcome to 3 AM Story. I'm Michael, and I want to take you with me to places of paranormal activity. Not only in places that you may have heard of, but to a number of places that you haven't heard of. We're going to be going to places of hauntings, spiritual activity, Bigfoot sightings, and UFO sightings as well. And I want you to come with me to experience it firsthand with me. And you never know. Keep your eyes open and your ears open watching this, and you may experience a little bit of something yourself. With that, come with me. I have a story to tell. Today's paranormal adventure takes us to Sunset Pioneer Cemetery. It's maintained by the Tigard Breakfast Rotary Club. As you can tell, it's right off Highway 99, so you'll have to please excuse the noise. I'll do the best I can to limit the noise as much as possible. And I want to start this by showing this little plaque. The cemetery that was founded in 1886 by Trinity Evangelical Church. This is a quaint, albeit very small cemetery. Very small, very old tombstones. Many cars on this busy Highway 99 whiz past Little Bull Mountain every day. But how many of the occupants of these vehicles are aware of the small cemetery on the hill above them? This once country cemetery is now called Sunset Pioneer Cemetery. Originally, it was located at the back of a white wooden church. It was located right over here. Highway 99 runs now, close to the intersection. That was built in 1886 when Highway 99 was just merely a dirt road. It was first envisioned by the Reverend A. Schlenk, who was the pastor of the German Evangelical Church here in Portland. He would come out to conduct services in the Ben Schoolhouse, used to be located once upon a time back up here in the woods, just beyond those apartments. There was a question as to where the new church would be built. Parishioner Albert Marsk wanted it built on Bull Mountain. Matthias Corner, living on Bend Road, wanted it there as well. Albert Eisner offered free ground for it if it was placed on Bull Mountain. One day, Charles F. Tigard was chatting with Mr. Eisner and asked what location had been decided upon. When he was told that the location was still undecided, Charles recommended putting it at the foot of Bull Mountain. Mr. Eisner agreed that this would be a good compromise. Emil Howman suggested putting it on Quigley Hill, as Little Bull Mountain was then known. The decision was made, tossing the dime. The land was purchased from Mr. Quigley at about $25 an acre. Grace Tigard Houghton, who recorded many of the stories of her father, writes that various neighbors helped with clearing the land for the church and constructing the building. Most of the material was donated, so very little funds were needed to be collected. While slushing up this hill one day, George McFarland was cursing in his usual fluent way, supposing he was out of earshot of the church people. He was overheard, however, by Reverend Schlenk, who, diplomat that he was, said, "Well, from the sound of things, we didn't start this church any too soon." Charles F. Tigard thought that the church should have a bell. The church members felt that they couldn't afford one, so Charles donated some money and collected enough from others to total $20 and bought a bell. When World War I came to an end on November 11, 1918, local children took turns ringing the bell in the church tower to celebrate. Services in the little church were conducted entirely in German. And many of the tombstones still standing on this hill bear German inscriptions. And I will show you a number of them as we walk along. In later years, the services were in English. It is interesting to note, though, that this hillside was mostly clear of trees. However, before the recent developments within the past 20 to 30 years, the hillside was once again covered in trees. In 1919, the State Highway Department wanted to widen and macadam the dirt road in front of the church. This required that the church be torn down to make way for the two-lane road, creating the eventual Highway 99 we see today. It was during this creation of Highway 99 that the ghostly sightings started to occur. Of course, you know, anytime that you have construction or they're fixing up a place, old places, tearing down, fixing up, it's going to get the spirits going. And that's exactly what happened in this case. A number of the local residents here have witnessed a plethora of paranormal activity, to include a number of different voices and groups, single and multiple. A series of shadow figures walking between these headstones and darting between these firs and pines and bushes, predominantly just before dark. But they've been known to happen at any time. There have been witnessed accounts of a woman roaming through the headstones, looking down at these headstones, maybe looking for her own, maybe looking to see just who she knew in life, in this life. And a number of locals have witnessed white and blue lights playfully jutting between these headstones and the trees. It's beautiful. Sad part is they've only got, the Rotary Club only comes out twice a year. They don't have the money or the resources to really keep up on this little itty bitty cemetery, but they do the best they can. And I'm sure that the spirits are grateful. So beautiful, so picturesque. Now these orbs have been known to fly around, usually around 3 o'clock in the morning, which is, of course, the real witching hour. There is one sad thing to note, though. At least I think it's rather on the sad side, is the spirit of what a lot of people around here call a little girl roams through these headstones as well. Now that could be very well, could be a little girl, but then you have to understand and realize too, that during this time, back in the mid to latter 1800s, back in the 1800s and even earlier, the bed clothing that children wore, both boys and girls, were of course, if you want to call them dresses, call them night clothes. There's a lot of different names for it. So in reality, my thought is It could be a boy or a girl. But the fact remains, this little spirit has been seen wandering through this cemetery on a regular basis. Personally, I've spoke to a few of the individuals that live in these condominiums and apartment complexes here, and they concur that there is definitely a lot of paranormal type activities going on here, as far as orbs, spirits, shadow figures. A lot of them have seen them all. A lot of them have seen either one or the other. Do they have recordings? I have asked a few, and there have been a number of paranormal investigators out here, a number of people that have been out here to check out the area. And there have been some EVPs with whispers. And talking going on in the background. Understandably now that there are condos and apartments around the area, so it could be very well that a number of these could be mistaken for conversations being held from the spirit realm here in the cemetery. But then a number of these have happened at early hours in the morning and around the witching hour of 3 o'clock. It's not just the orbs that have been seen. They have seen shadow figures as well, and the misty white form of a woman as well as a child. At different times, of course, but have been seen here nonetheless. Now, if you want to come here and pay your respects to these spirits, to these children, to these individuals, you would take Highway 99 west to 109th Street, just at the base of this hill. It's just outside of King City, Oregon. You make a right on the 109th Street and drive roughly 100 yards and make a right on Canterbury Lane. You would take the first right off of Canterbury, which will go through the new development up here in this area just beyond the cemetery. Park at the top of the cul-de-sac, at the very top, and proceed to walk down the sidewalk to the concrete steps on the right. And at the base of the steps, you will find a sign to the cemetery. You have arrived. It's beautiful. Beautiful to see these tall firs. To see these beautiful headstones, beautiful old headstones, in a history that each one of them would have. Sad to see a number of children. Of course, back in those days, you had a lot of different diseases, typhoid, yellow fever, as well as normal ones like the influenza and stuff that would actually take the life of a lot of these people and children. Because of course, during those times, they just didn't have the medicines and the vaccinations needed to fight and combat and get rid of these diseases and illnesses. But these are the remains of the pioneers right here that have helped make this part of the Oregon Trail, this part of the almost Oregon coast, what it is today. Without them, there would be no us. Once again, a lot of beautiful headstones. Some of them no longer with us, the headstones. A lot of old headstones. Each one with a story. And with all that being said, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Please click like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want. Helps with the algorithm and helps me to work on and improve this channel. Shout out to my brothers back in Ohio. Thank you very much for joining me again. I love you all. Happy hunting.